Okay, guys, so we must go on with the next unit, unit 3.2, explaining and instructing. Okay, I have here the presentation, and the unit starts with this activity where you can find two images. One person is in the kitchen and the other one is in the bathroom of a hotel room. Okay, and here is a starter, and it says match the words with the items in the pictures. Okay, so you have knife, shower, hand basin, toilet, towels, colander, saucepan, toiletries, and laundry bag. So you have the the letters in each of the items. You can find here, this is the B, A, C, here we have G, I, H, and so on. Okay, so that's the first activity that you must do in this unit, and then you will find the dialogue, how to do it right. Okay, and it says listen to the two dialogues and answer the questions. Dialogue 1, dialogue 2, and this dialogue appears also on page 80. Okay, I'll go to page 80 here. Page 80. Okay, you will find it here, unit 3.2, how to do it right. Okay, let's go back to page 40. Page 40 is right here. Okay, and you must answer first the questions, and then you have to listen and complete the sentences that we have on this part of the page. Then we have the vocabulary of this unit. We have the new words to use. We have bath or shower, hell, bin or rubbish, that is the same, body lotion, break. When you find this V, remember that we're talking about a verb, okay? Cuando encuentren la V, estamos hablando de verbos. Break, chop, colander, complimentary, floret, hygiene, Julian, pillowcase, prepares, scrape, sheet, skin, lice, soap, spotless, sweep, utensil, and wash. Okay, remember to find the meaning of these words. All right, what do they mean in Spanish? Okay, and then you will find the structures to practice. Okay, now I'm gonna explain you this part. In these structures to practice, we will talk about the expressions must, have to, don't have to, and mustn't. Okay, we have must, have to, don't have to, and mustn't. And we will start with the expression must and have to and has to. Okay, because they refer to a same thing. They refer to an obligation. Okay, we use must, have to, or has to when we talk about an obligation. When we talk about an obligation, okay, we use must when the speaker thinks something is important. Okay, when the action is important to do. All right. And here, the structure is very simple because when we use must, we can use any subject. That means that I am going to use must with I, you, he, she, it, we, and they. All subjects use must. Okay, that means that if you write, for example, Fernando musts with an S at the end, that will be wrong. Okay, the correct form is Fernando must without the S. All right, so you can use must with any of the subjects that we have, you, he, she, it, we, and they. And you have to use a base form of the verb. That means that the action that you are referring to is going to use the base form. Okay, I have here an example. I must finish. Remember, base form of the verb. Okay, if I want to express this action, must finish, with another subject, for example, Alexis, the sentence would say Alexis must finish before lunch. Okay, so here I don't have to add an S or an ing verb or something else. Okay, just use must in the base form of the verb. All right, I must finish before lunch, or we must finish, or the chef must finish. All right, so it's the same verb for all of the subjects. Must in the base form of the verb. Okay, must do, must answer, must be, etc. Okay, now the next expression is have to and has to. All right, now we can get a little bit confused because they too refer to an obligation. Okay, what is the difference between must and have to? Okay, when you use have to, that means that it's an obligation that is part of your job. Okay, this is part of your job. Now pay attention here. Here we have two different ways to express have to and has to. We use have to when we have the subjects I, you, we, and they. You use have to in the base form of the main verb. Okay? For example, we, here I have a mixed, the examples are mixed, I'm sorry. But let's see. We have to prepare the lunch vegetables. Now notice, here I use have to in the base form of the verb. Okay? And when I have he, she, or it, I must use has to. Okay, he, she, and it go with has to in the base form of the verb. For example, the receptionist can be he or can be she. The receptionist has to answer the calls. Okay, has to in the base form of the verb. Now, if you notice this, in these two sentences, we are talking about responsibilities that the subject has to do. Okay? All right. Now, let's go on. The next expression that we have is don't have to or doesn't have to. Don't have to or doesn't have to can be used when you are talking about something that is not, something that isn't an obligation. That means something that isn't necessary to do. Okay, when you don't have the obligation, when you don't have that responsibility, then you use don't have to or doesn't have to, depending on what you're talking about or depending on the subject. Okay, so when you have I, you, we, and they, we're gonna use don't have to in the base form of the main verb. And when you have he, she, it, you use doesn't have to in the base form of the verb. For example, Karen would be she, okay? Karen doesn't have to work on Sundays. That means that isn't something necessary, or that isn't a responsibility of Karen, okay? She doesn't have to work on Sundays, all right? Maybe she has to work on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, etc., but she doesn't have to work on Sundays. And the other example says customers don't have to. Remember, customers is a plural noun. Customers would be they, okay? Customers don't have to leave a tip in restaurants in Japan, okay? That means that this isn't an obligation. If you go to Japan, actually they consider it rude, okay? So customers or people don't have to leave a tip. It isn't an obligation, all right? It isn't something that you have to do. Okay, next expression is the expression mustn't. If you remember, we saw must in the beginning, but now we have mustn't, okay? This expression mustn't refers to a negative obligation or a prohibition, okay? Now, when you have mustn't, it's very similar to the must, okay? You use mustn't for all subjects. I, you, he, she, we, you, they use mustn't. And the base form of the verb. For example, guests mustn't smoke in the non-smoking areas. That means that this action, smoke in the non-smoking areas, is something that is forbidden. Okay, is forbidden. All right, so to talk about a prohibition or something that is forbidden, we are going to use mustn't. Okay, so we have must and have to when we refer to an obligation. Must, debes, debes hacer. Él debe hacer, nosotros debemos. Have to, has to in Spanish would be tienes que o tengo que hacer algo. Don't have to, doesn't have to, remember, in Spanish would be no tienes que hacer algo o no tengo que hacer algo. Algo que no es necesario hacer o no es mi obligación hacer. Don't have to, doesn't have to. And the last one, mustn't. Negative obligation. No debes. No debes fumar en áreas que no son de fumar. Alright, it's something that is forbidden. Remember, para cosas que están prohibidas, we use mustn't. Alright, now let's practice.